Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker for My Favorite Things. Today I'm going to be using the Buzzing with Happiness stamp set as well as the Peekaboo Honeycomb die to make a really cute bee themed card. Now the Buzzing with Happiness stamp set does feature 4 cute little garden gnomes that are bee themed, but for today's card I decided to just use the bee stamps from the set and make them the focus of this card. So I stamped the bees with a Copic Friendly black ink onto some Neenah Classic Crest Silver White cardstock, and I'm going to quickly color them in using my Copic markers. I do keep the marker caps off to the side so that you can see the colors that I used. When I colored the wings with the light blue color, I then took my Copic blender marker and I just blended the edges of that color so that it would soften out into the white of the page. Super quick coloring because they are such a small image. I then used the coordinating dies to cut them out. Next, I grabbed the Peekaboo Honeycomb die, and I have a piece of white cardstock which is cut to be just slightly smaller than an A2 size card. So this is a panel that is 5 by 3 3/4, and I die cut the honeycomb shape out of that. Once I finished popping out all of those little hexagons, I put the panel into my MISTI tool, and I grabbed a couple of the detail stamps from the Buzzing with Happiness stamp set. And I'm going to stamp those with VersaFine Onyx Black ink. These 2 stamps are going to make these cute little bee trails for my bees, which I think is a nice little detail to add to the card. Typically, my instinct for this panel would be to give it some dimension and pop it up. And when I was looking at it and I kind of hovered it over my yellow background, that's just a yellow piece of cardstock, I didn't like the look of it popped up. I think that this is one of the few cases where I don't like the dimension. It just kind of created these shadows that I wasn't a fan of. So instead of popping this up, I'm going to glue it down with liquid adhesive. I added tiny little glue dots at a lot of the intersections between the hexagons so that the middle of the panel would stick to the background really well. But before actually adhering this to my background, I did make sure to use my finger and kind of dab at all of those little dots. And this helps to prevent any oozing of that glue when I press it down. I don't want to have that glue oozing out of the sides, making a lot of messes. Once that was dry, I did decide to pop this up with some foam tape, so I do get some dimension. I popped that up onto a craft cardstock card base, and now I'm going to make my sentiment. I pulled this sentiment from the same stamp set. It says, "I'll be here for you today, tomorrow, and always." I stamped it on black cardstock with Versamark ink. I did prep that cardstock with a powder bag before stamping so that I don't have any issues with my embossing. And then I embossed it with a white embossing powder. I carefully trimmed that sentiment down using just a paper trimmer, and I'm using my T-square ruler to place it onto the card so that I can make sure that it is straight and lined up in the center as best as I can get it. And I did use foam tape to pop that up, and I'm going to use foam tape to pop up the 3 little bees as well. And for 2 of the bees, I did of course put them so that they're at the end of the little stamped bee trails, and I really like that. I don't know why I find that so cute, but I think it's adorable. I think it kind of reminds me of Winnie the Pooh. For some embellishment on this card, I am adding sequins. I used clear sequins, translucent yellow sequins, and translucent blue sequins, pulling those colors directly from the bees and the background. I really like the way that adds to some of the negative space on the card, and I really like how the blue kind of pops. Next, I grabbed my Wink of Stella glitter brush and I added some sparkle to the wings of the bees. And then finally, the last thing that I'm going to do for this card is I'm going to pull out my white gel pen and I'm just going to add a couple of highlights to each of the bees. These are really tiny images, so I'm not going to add too much, just a little line on their bellies. And that's it. This card is all done and it was pretty quick to make. The coloring process on this card was very fast and easy, so if you're ever intimidated by coloring on cards, this is a good one to try. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this card design, and I'll see you next time.